it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Play your goals, live out your dream. Live the best right now. Inspirational perspective.
Today, this weekend, is one of the only days many people will be clear, like crystal clear, on who they intend to be. Like folks know who they want to be today. They didn't know who they were yesterday, but they know who they want to be today. And so they'll get up this morning. They probably did it yesterday or even Friday night. They'll put on a mask. They'll put on their costume to honor the intention of who it is that they intend to be. And then come Monday morning, they'll be lost. They'll have no idea who they are anymore. But for one day, they would have had the opportunity to embody somebody else. Last night, my family and I, we were driving, leaving dinner, and we're driving, and a young lady is in a short mini skirt with a halter top on. That's it. Outside, in the cold. My wife said, who was she supposed to be? I said, that looked like Fred Flintstone's wife. Like we were she was very clear about who she intended to be. But my question is, does she know who she is tomorrow? Like, does she know who she is tomorrow? Does she understand her individual divinity? Does she understand how powerful she is? And does she understand that she's a child of God? But more importantly, does she understand that she's under attack as a sovereign human being? Does she get that? And so that's what I want to talk about today. Because so many of us are unknown to ourselves. A day like this, we'll think, 45 days out, 30 days out about who I want to be on one day and be lost every other day of the year. 364 days lost, and one day I know who I want to be. And whoever that is a fictional entity, a fictional character. So again, this is why I say we're being manipulated. We talked about what it means to, quote unquote, be woke last week, realizing that many of us are just kind of turning over in our sleep saying we woke. And then here's what happens when you sleep. If you're in a deep, deep sleep and somebody shakes you, you wake up fighting. So then when you wake up, you want to fight. Like, what do you want with me? You get mad. Why you wake me up? Why you shake me? But I'm woke, though. I'm going to tell you like this. One of the ways you know you're woke is that you don't get so offended. You don't get so mad when someone says something to you. Woke folk will basically say, that's interesting. I wonder why he's saying that. I wonder if there's something that I'm not privy to that has him saying this. I realized that there might be more that I don't know that I thought I knew. That's how woke folk think and operate. But when you've been sleeping for a long time and you've been dreaming that you're woke and somebody shakes you, you get mad. Wait, what do you want? What are you doing? Saw a video, some guy sleeping in the wrong bed. Guy woke up by the woman whose bed he was in. Man, his eyes were like, imagine waking up like that. Man, shocked, shook. What's going on? He looked innocent too. What are you doing here? You looked innocent. Doesn't matter. You were manipulated. He was manipulated. And that's how it is for a lot of us. One of the things we talked about was the concept of freedom. And what good is so-called freedom if the mind is still chained and shackled? What good is so-called freedom if I can't think freely? If I'm being told what to do, but by the way, you live in the land of the free and the home of the so-called brave. What good is this freedom if I can't think, if I can't choose, if I can't make sovereign decisions for myself and my family? Is it truly freedom? Or am I being manipulated? The big question I had last week when we were talking about this is, are you thinking wholly and completely for yourself? You're just tuning in, man. I'm a little fired up. I don't like when resistance tries to get in the way. And I know there's something that needs to be said. I mean, resistance everywhere. I don't like that, but that's all right. Are you thinking wholly and completely for yourself? And I got the answer to that. Unfortunately, none of us do. None of us do, including me. None of us do. You might be scratching your head right now. Coach, what are you saying? None of us do. All right, so let me help you understand what I mean. Let's use an example here. If I'm born into a family and this family has already been indoctrinated by a certain religion, then as I grow up with this indoctrination, I have never, in this area of my life, been able to wholly and completely think for myself. Somebody put in the comments last week that Socrates taught the young people to question everything, and it made the older people who were a part of that Greek society unsettled and upset. I thought that was a beautiful comment. If I'm not mistaken, Socrates was trained by Plato. Is that correct? Socrates was trained by Plato. And Plato taught him this concept of questioning everything. What most folks don't know is that Plato was trained in Kemet. And Plato spent 15 years in Kemet trying to understand the wisdom of philosophy, the wisdom of open thought that came from people that look like you and I. See, these are the things they don't tell us. Again, because we're being manipulated. So you have to question everything. Why am I questioning everything? Because if I don't question everything, I'll actually believe that everything that Plato wrote was his and his alone. I believe that. Most of what I say is not mine and mine alone. It comes from the many authors, the many teachers, the professors, my parents, thought leaders that I've had the opportunity to listen to. And so what happens is, as we listen, as we learn, we begin to decipher what works, what doesn't work, what I agree with, what I don't agree with. We begin to move information and say, you know, this resonates with me, but this doesn't. And sometimes we don't even know why it doesn't. That could be a form of our having been manipulated. So when I say, are we thinking wholly and completely for ourselves, and I say that we're not, what I want you to understand is that the first step of coming out of manipulation, and this is what I want to talk about, is the first level of manipulation. The first step of coming out of manipulation is admitting that the sauce is sweet. You know how people say you're lost in the sauce? Not only are most of us lost in the sauce, but the sauce is sweet and the plot is deep. You got to understand. Okay? Like, people don't get lost in the sauce because it's bitter and sour. No, man. Now, the consequence may be bitter and sour, but that's after you've been soaked. Right? But people get lost in the sauce because the sauce is sweet and the plot is deep. I'm telling you. So last week, here's what we talked about. We talked about social engineering, otherwise known as human hacking. Like, how does it feel to know that you've been hacked? Like, just think about it, right? If you knew that your computer had been hacked, somebody's been all in the back of your files going through your personal things, like, you wouldn't feel good about that. But most of us don't even understand that our mind, our bodies, our emotions, the list goes on. Those aspects of who it is that we are has been hacked. It's been hacked. It's a 4-part model when I think about coaching. The first step is awareness. The second step is access to choice, right? Because now that I'm aware, then I have new choices I can make. Wait a second. Am I making this choice, or am I being influenced to make this choice? Like, what's really going on here? Is this me, or is this something else? So then I'm aware, I have access to choice, but just because I have access to choice doesn't mean I'm going to choose. See, because manipulation runs deep, right? So then I have to get intentional. Maybe after I've done research, maybe after I've done my homework, maybe after I've had counsel from people I trust and know. Then I begin to choose with powerful intention, saying to myself, you know what? This is who I intend to be, or this is where I intend to go. And then from that place comes transformation. That's where transformation comes from. Because now I'm aware in the area of my life where I didn't have any awareness. I've had access to choices, and I decided to choose or make a choice from that place, from one of those choices. I've decided to choose one powerfully. And now I'm practicing that choice over and over again to the point where that area of my life transforms. An example of this would be a diet. And we see we see the outward transformation of that individual. But there was an awareness that took place first, and then they had to choose from many choices. Man, do I do the Atkins diet? Do I check on Jenny Craig? Maybe I'll do a juice diet. They have all these choices, and they choose one with powerful intention, the one they believe is best for them, because, by the way, we already know that some of these choices are not good choices. And then, from that place, we begin to see and experience the transformation. Awareness is the first step, right? Understanding that I can be bamboozled. Understanding that I can be fooled, and that one of the communities, one of the groups of people who've been fooled the most is the African American community. Right? One of the groups of people who have been fooled the most. This is why we're so skeptical. Somebody say something, we like, I don't know about that, really. I might have to check on that. And so many of us have been fooled. We settled in on this truth. And we also settled in on the truth that we all have the capacity to believe a beautiful lie. We all have the capacity to believe a beautiful lie. Many of us growing up in high school years ago believed the lie that the very beginning of our people started with slavery. And we believed this lie to the extent where it impacted our self-esteem, and our ability to see ourselves as whole. We heard stories, we experienced racism, discrimination, even now microaggressions in the workplace that reinforce this beautiful lie. But our history didn't start there. We are known as the first people. We are known as those who come from the cradle of civilization, the first to be civilized. So why isn't that talked about? Why isn't that taught? Because the omission of that history creates a beautiful lie. We then began to discuss how these types of manipulation work. I just want to set the tone because I want to get in conversation with you all in the second hour. All right? We discussed how these type of manipulations work, and we identified the 6 ways that we are manipulated: through authority, the doctor said, Professor so-and-so said, right? The president said, and how those who have prefixes in front of their names have an ability to manipulate, unlike those who don't. The second is intimidation, right? Fear. What will happen? What might happen? And then 3 is consensus. Everyone else is doing it. 4, scarcity. 5, familiarity and trust, right? I can come and say, well, you all know me or you trust me and this is what you should do. And even if I said that, you should check. You should do the research. You should question it. And then number 6 is urgency. See, the thing about urgency is they don't give you the time to research then. Come on, do it right away. Time is short. Only a few left. And we also discuss why this should matter to us as a community. These are things we should know. If we are one of the most manipulated people, then we have to begin to understand how we are being manipulated. Because the Western illusion of individualism, let me say that again. The Western illusion of individualism is breaking down the pillars of our community, the safety of community. Here is the first level of manipulation. And I'm going to talk in terms of me. So, because I want to make this, I want us to navigate around the emotion as best as we can. Okay? I'm going to use this in terms of me. The deepest manipulation that I experience is generated by me on me. And this is my denial of my current reality. Track with me. My denial of my current reality. When I say my current reality, we're going to break it down, but I'm going to give it to you right now. My intellectual reality, my physical reality, meaning my health, meaning my physical being, my physical reality. Many of us are denying that we're ill. We're denying it. Many of us are denying that we haven't fully intellectually developed, nor do we continue our intellectual development, that there's so much that we don't know, that there's really very little time. Very little time to waste. So intellectually, I've been manipulated. Physically, I'm manipulated. What's the manipulation? Denial. Everything's okay. Emotionally, I'm manipulated. Many of us, we don't do therapy because we say we can't afford it. Therapy is so expensive. At the same time, we slide into a luxury vehicle, put on expensive shoes and clothes, and dine out at restaurants and close 3-figure, 4-figure bar tabs. But I can't afford therapy. You're in denial. You're broken emotionally. Relationally, we're in denial. There are folks in relationship right now saying, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. You all are verbally abusing one another, emotionally abusing one another, and it's not that bad. We don't need help, Or we can't afford counseling. We can't. No. That's too much. Socially manipulated. Like, there are many folks who don't even know how to make a friend, man. But you're in denial about that. You won't admit it to yourself. Like, the deepest, let's go back to it again. The deepest manipulation I experience is generated by me on me. This is the first level of manipulation. It's my denial of my current reality. I feel isolated, but I'm not sure why. But I feel isolated because I'm socially awkward, and I won't admit it to myself. I don't know how to connect, but I won't admit it to myself. As a matter of fact, it becomes everybody else's problem. Ide's in the studio with me this morning. Hey, it's Ide's issue. Ide is weird, not me. But I can't connect with anyone, and everybody else is weird. I'm in denial. First level of manipulation. It's my refusal to admit that my development is multidimensional. Let me talk to the spiritual folks real quick. I love you. I really do. But your spiritual development is not the only thing that you need, brother and sister. Your spiritual development is just one dimension of who it is that you be in this earth realm. And so how are you going to reach other people spiritually when you're physically obese? I love you. I love you. I love you. See, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Like, we have been manipulated across the board. And so then when I'm not looking at myself, I'm not aware of myself. And then I wonder, why can't I reach people? Why don't they listen to me? But I'm unaware. We all have potential. The question in this lifetime is, will I reach the maximum of that potential? And so what this means is that my development is multidimensional. My development is intellectual. My development should be physical. My development should be emotional. Why am I triggered by that? Why do I respond that way? I should always be asking myself questions. My development is relational. How do others relate to me, and how do I relate to them? My development is also social. How can I reach people with my purpose if I can't connect? And then also financial. Because how can I live my purpose if I can't sustain myself and my family? And then last but definitely not least, it should be the first, is spiritually. But I want to be clear. I called out my spiritual brothers and sisters because I grew up in a religious framework where everything was about spirituality. Everything was about spirituality. Everything was about how I showed up, quote unquote, spiritually. Intellectual knowledge in many ways was trivialized. Universities were trivialized. Health was secondary because I pray over my food and the Lord will heal me. But then at the same time, many of these people who were adults when I was young, have passed away. They're no longer with us. What good is being a spiritual force if it's for such a short time? Look at our community, man. $1.3 trillion on the books. $1.7 trillion, including the money that's not on the books. Yet, we struggle. I mean, think about what our community could produce if we brought ourselves together in unity financially, just financially. But that can't happen because many of us haven't navigated past the first level of manipulation. We haven't looked past our own denial. What makes you think if you have brown skin and use the United States of America that you're whole if you haven't done the work to be whole? One of the things we're going to talk about in the second hour is epigenetics and how epigenetics of DNA, many of us were born broken. Like, take away the trauma of the dysfunctional family that you grew up in. But we were born broken from the sins or the horrors or the traumas of our great-grandfather and our grandfather and our mother. And it's trapped inside of us. And this is the opportunity, right? With awareness, this becomes the opportunity for us to begin to shift it. But I first have to admit to myself, hey, you know what? There's work I can do. Because the first level of manipulation is my own denial that there's work to do. And then there's a bonus. And this is one of the things I believe destroys a lot of us who are somewhat developed, is because we begin to focus on what makes sense intellectually, physically, emotionally, relationally, socially, financially, spiritually, with no clarity on what restores us recreationally. No play. It's a balance. We're going to talk about the way we lie to ourselves. I got an analogy that will blow your mind, but here's the first one. One of the ways we lie to ourselves is when we say, God first. God first. But is that true? Like, is that really true? See, because some of us say God first, but then if I begin to read to you about Halloween, you're going to get mad. You're going to get upset. I begin to read the text about the origins of Halloween and this so-called holiday and its evil history, you'll get upset. At the same time, you believe that you put God first. Got a phone call? I'll take that at the top of the hour. All of us, you might say, well, I don't say God first, man. Maybe you say family first. We'll talk about that. Because the question is, are they really first? Or are you suffering from a deep, dark denial, the first level of manipulation? Again, we can get mad about the fact that we're being lied to. We can get mad about the fact that, our politicians do us the way they do us. We can get mad about how policy is written and laws are made. We can get mad about all these things. But just notice, most of that happens in our circle of concern. And we focus so much, it's a setup. We focus so much on our circle of concern that we completely ignore the circle of influence. Right here with me. What can I begin to do right here, right now, to take myself to the next level? In every one of those categories. What can I begin to do? I'm at the barbershop, and he begins to tell me this story. And I want to lay it out for you guys. So most of us will say family first, right? And Ade, let's get Ade a hot mic. Let's get Ade a hot mic, Justin. 'Cause I'm going to use him as the example. And Justin, join in on this as well. Join in on this as well, because I want men, I want to get the in many ways, the feedback of two separate men. And I see you all, Kevin, War Ministries. I'm coming to you next. But Ade has a hot mic, Justin. So I want to bring them into this because, all right, so this whole concept of family first. So, Justin, I'm going to start with you, man. Tell us a little bit about you. You're a father, correct?
That's right.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
You have 3 children. Would you do anything
Yep.
for them? Would you do anything for them?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Would you do anything for your children?
I will do everything for my children.
You do everything for your children. Okay, Ade. Good morning, brother.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, so you're not a father, but you have a family.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about your family.
It's mainly 4 of us: mom, dad, younger sister, then extended family on both sides.
Now let's not talk about the extended family.
Yeah,
just them.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
them. Just them.
basic, yep.
All right, so you have your mom, your dad, and a sister.
Young sister.
Would you
yep.
do anything for your family?
Of course, yep.
Okay. Both of these brothers have said they would do anything for their family. So, if I tied your family up, Ade, Justin, if I tied your family up and I put out, let's make it reasonable, $25,000.
Okay.
$25,000 for you to get your family back safely. Let's raise the pot. That's not even reasonable. Let's just say 50,000. All right? Ade, I don't care if you don't have it, but if you want me to release your family, you cannot go to the police and you must bring me $50,000 in cash. Would you figure it out
Yeah.
to save your family?
I would get it too. Yeah,
You would figure it out? Why? Well, I mean, you said you would have to.
Yeah.
You would figure it out.
I would have to,
I got
yeah.
your family tied up. You would figure it out.
Yeah.
Justin, what about you? I got your 3 girls tied up.
Most
You got-
definitely.
You most definitely.
I most definitely find that money.
You'll find that money.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What if I told you your family's tied up right now?
Bye.
Right. I'm not here.
You're not here.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. But what if I told you they're tied up intellectually?
What do you mean?
That they're being lied to. That there are things they should know that they don't know.
Okay, first we have to unlearn what they know and learn what they should know.
But would you have the same level of urgency, like it has to happen right now this week?
Most definitely.
Yeah?
Yes.
What if I told
would
you
say so.
that they were tied up physically, that their health is under attack? Y'all see where I'm going with this?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
what if I told you that they were tied up emotionally? What if I told you that they were tied up financially? We just talked about the money, right?
Right.
Tied up financially. Most of us say family first. Thank you, gentlemen, for that.
No problem.
You get my point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Most of us say family first. And then if I tie your family up and say, you owe me $50,000, you would go find it. But right now you have your family tied up financially. Because you have nothing in store for college for your children, nothing in store for their intellectual education, nothing in store for their health. You don't even watch over what they eat. You don't even read the back of the cardboard, but family first. You get the box, you just throw it in the grocery cart. You're feeding them red dye 5, red dye 45, all types of poisons that are poisoning their mind, but family first. Y'all see where I'm going?
Yeah.
You see where I'm going? Like if I have a sense of urgency, and here's my point. This is another level of manipulation. Most of us, unless we experience it in this reality, we don't acknowledge it. We have to see our family tied up to do something about it. But when I tell you that your family is tied up physically, your family is tied up socially, your family is tied up spiritually, your family is tied up financially, you don't move. Why? Why don't we move? Because it's the first level of manipulation. It's denial. It's denial because I see my wife, because I see my son wake up every day, say good morning, Dad. They seem healthy. They seem to be breathing. Everything seems to be fine. Then it allows my level of denial to actually say everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. When truth is coming at you. Truth is coming at you. You know this food's no good. You know it. You still feed it to them. You know that it's going to require a different level of financial stability and freedom to put those children through college, or maybe to pull them out that school so you can get them educated in an environment where there's not so much evil coming at them every day. But you don't change a thing. You still have the expensive car. You still have the expensive house. You still buy the expensive clothes. First level of denial. First level of manipulation is denial. Many of us will buy $1,000 shoes and not put anything in the 529 account for the child. You're on your own. That's the biggest setup. The biggest setup ever is to allow an 18-year-old to go out into this wicked world all by themselves with no covering. It's a setup. Why would you do that to a child? Well, Linal, they're an adult. Oh, you believe that too? They manipulated you into believing that too? And the furthest from an adult is an 18-year-old boy. But I wouldn't let my 18-year-old girl out like that because, the vultures are waiting. There's an appetite for young girls who think they're adults. There's an appetite for them. There are men out here waiting to devour them. Oh, but she's grown now. She out my house. You've been manipulated. You're still a steward, not a controller, but a steward. And then boys don't hit their full maturity. The neocortex isn't fully developed until they're like 25. Why do you think in benefits they actually say, oh, they can stay on your health care for a little longer because we understand they may not be able to take care of themselves. But we as men, we'll toss them out right away. Oh, you a man now, get out of here.
We begin to follow whatever the masses at the people, and our government is part of misleading us with the media, as you may say. And you're right. I do not celebrate any holiday because they are man-made, and what they do, and even religion is man-made. So we are doing a lot of things that are man-made, but we are not doing the things that God has made. And until we go back to God, we're going to continue to be lost. And so if my people who are called by his name, he says, shall seek my face and humble themselves, pray and turn from your wicked ways. But instead of seeking God himself, Yeshua and Yahweh, we're seeking man. And so man will fail you every time until we understand that we must pray for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to know that what is really taking place.
Let me say this right here. I brought this book into the studio. It's by Aladdin Shabazz. Symbolism, Holidays, Myths, and Signs. And I just brought it into the studio because we are entering the season of these holidays. And we don't even understand the type of manipulation that we're under. Almost all these holidays have some type of evil undertone, all of them, including December 25th, has some type of evil undertone. And if it doesn't have an evil undertone, it's simply cosmetology. Cosmology. That's a big difference. It's simply cosmology. What is cosmology? The understanding of the stars, right? December 25th, winter solstice, is when the sun is what they call rebirth. But see, there's so much we don't know. And so because we don't know it, we go with the flow. And what the sister said was great. There's another one here. This is by Dr. Ishikamusa Barashango. And it's African People and European Holidays, a Mental Genocide. I just brought them in. Like these are just a couple of the books that we need to be reading. But this is one of the reasons why, my wife and I yesterday in the afternoon, we put my son down for a nap, and we were just kind of sitting together on the couch, watching a little television. By the way, the first time the television came on in the house in a week, right? And I think it was on, how long, Pam? I think like 45 minutes. I think we watched a 45-minute program and turned it back off. That's a whole nother topic right there, right? But we turned it on with intention and turned it off with intention. But during that time, they played Christmas commercials yesterday. Christmas. Christmas commercials. I'm like, wow. Like, when will we begin to understand that that holiday is not about the Son of God? Manipulation. And somebody's getting mad right now. Yes, it is. That's not the origin. Like, once again, think about it this way. Let me give you another framing. If there were no holidays in the fourth quarter, would people go out and spend a lot of money? Think about it. It's cold. Like right now, it's rainy. Like, would people have been in the clubs last night if it weren't for Halloween? The way it rained this weekend, it's cold, it's drafty. Right? But these bars need you to get a tab. You know, they need that money flowing, man. That the economy depends on it. And so we go out of Halloween. Look up the etymology of that word, by the way. Like, the etymology, I actually have it here. I'm going to get you in a second, Kevin. Look up the etymology of the word. Halloween. Halloween. See, man, I'm actually just going to go ahead and go here right quick. Why not? Because today's the day. But this is based on a November 1st. So they always just kind of flip it a little bit. You get where I'm going? Like, this is based on a November 1st European ritual. And then they said, well, we just got to move it a little bit because we want to. And this is back during the times of Emperor Constantine when he was trying to unite his empire for political reasons. And he's like, man, we can't have this infighting between the Christians and everybody else. So what if we got the so-called Christian leaders to actually be okay with implementing some of these holidays if we just switched them up a bit? So they switched it up and they were like, look, man, you all can have All Saints Day, right? And then the others, they're going to do their thing. We're all happy. We're all happy. They just scooped it all in with each other, right? Same thing with winter solstice. We're all happy. Why don't you all just celebrate the birth of your Savior on December 25th? Can we do that? Then fast forward, right? Then you fast forward to present day, and Thanksgiving became all about gross domestic product, like making sure that the gross domestic product got pushed. That's why they put it in. And go do, like, don't believe me. Like I said, don't let me manipulate you. Don't let me lie to you. Go do the research. So they put it in. And we all know that it was the beginning of a horrible genocide. The first Thanksgiving was the beginning of a horrible genocide. The first Thanksgiving was a manipulation. Go look at your history books. They brought in the indigenous people, celebrated with them, and then a year later killed them. It was a manipulation. Go ahead and lower your guards. Watch what we do to you. I might be off on the year. It might have been 2 years. Forgive me. Forgive me. It might have been 3. It wasn't long. It didn't take long for them to turn on that tribe that they broke bread with. Now we celebrate this. And I get that we can reset the intention and that we are part of a culture that has these holidays. I get that. And so I want to be clear that I'm not condemning what I'm doing. What I want to do, though, is wake you up. Like, we need to understand the source. Because the more you understand the source, the more power you give the actual day. The body, the human body, is wonderfully made. And if it's taken care of, it is miraculous. I mean, the things that the body can do is, absolutely miraculous. We live in a society today. Again, we got to remember, like, what's the source of this, right? What's the source? We live in a society today where the foods that we're being fed aren't really foods, okay? A high diet of carbohydrates. And by the way, these aren't even healthy. It's not even like it's potato carbohydrates and starches. These are manufactured, genetically modified carbohydrates and starches that cause obesity, right? There's a cause and effect. And when these carbohydrates, genetically modified carbohydrates and starches, get into the body, they create excess fat because the body doesn't know what to do with it, right? High fructose corn syrup, you name it. Body doesn't know what to do with these things. It doesn't know how to process these things. And so the cause are the chemicals and the things that are in the food. The effect is what happens to the body. Okay? And my concern is not necessarily what you look like. It's not my concern because we're all made differently, right? I can remember years ago when I saw a young lady, I'm like, oh man, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful. A buddy of mine said, man, she's skin and bones, because he liked a bigger woman. And there are some bigger women who will outrun a skinny woman. Let me be clear, okay? Because they are taking care of themselves and they are in good health. So this thing isn't just about size. There are some skinny folks who your metabolism is high, and you're eating this stuff, and you will die of the same things if you're not careful. Just because your body has figured out how to burn it off doesn't mean that it's not leading to high blood pressure and heart disease. In others, we can actually see it. And all we're saying is, it's time to wake up. It's a ploy. The folks who are saying, oh, don't worry about that, it's okay, right? They own the food companies. They own the pharmaceutical companies. They're just waiting to coat their pockets when the illness finally catches up to you and sits you down. But can I say this, Art? Can I say this? The codes of conduct sound like laws or rules or standards. And that is different than spirituality. We have to put a place of discernment between the two, because one of the things that's happened with religion is that it's become a both and. And there's a difference, and that's why I asked you, like, how do we teach young people spirituality?
Well, let me say this. All children or young people start off with, if their parents start off with dictations. So we don't like to hear that word, but you dictate. You know you dictate. You can say what you want to say, but the options that we leave on the table for our children, and I use a quick example, this is what you're going to eat. These are your choices. You got an apple, and you got an apple. Those are your choices. That's your choices. So when you get into bargaining with people, young people, when you are there in authority over them, you are their God. So when you get into bargaining with God, gave you permission to control, to get them to a point, this is where we go wrong at.
So, Art, can I respectfully disagree? And I'm going to tell you why.
Yes, sir.
I respectfully disagree, because as human beings, we're given a natural amount of curiosity. And so as a father, let's talk about my son, Legend. As a father, if I give him an apple and an apple to choose from, I'm not equipping him for the real world when it comes down to him being able to make his own choices. So let me tell you what my wife and I have done. One of the things, and I also believe this is the way that spirituality should be.
And hopefully let me respond to it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you respond. So this is how we've done this. So my son, he had an affinity for cheese. He's 4 years old. And between 2 and 3, the boy loved cheese. Give me more cheese, mommy. Give me more cheese, right? And so I'm watching this, and one day he caught a cold. And he wanted cheese from mom, and she's trying to explain to him that, well, probably not until you get over your cold. Why not? And so we began to explain to him how cheese produces mucus in the body. And I told him this is why mommy and daddy don't eat as much cheese as you. Because children your age can actually process the cheese. However, with you having a cold, you're not able to process that cheese right now. And that's going to turn into mucus in your body, which is why you can't breathe, which is why we keep blowing your nose. And he's 4 years old. Do you know, a couple of weeks ago, my wife said, man, you know what would be nice? Pizza. I said, I don't really want any pizza. Actually, it was actually last week. And it was a Saturday night. I said, I want pizza before the show. I don't want to eat pizza on a Saturday night because I need my mind to be clear, and I need my body to be 100%. And so we haven't had pizza in months, and I don't think it's the right time to have pizza. She said, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm just having a moment. So Sunday, she called me after the show. And she said, man, what do y'all think about pizza? I just got a taste for pizza, because she started a new plan with her eating, and she just wanted to have a cheat night before she did that. And so I said, well, I guess, Monday's a slow day for me. And I want you all, too, listening, to notice the process we go through just to have a pizza. Okay? This is my wife and I. Just to have a pizza. This is the conversation we're having, because we understand the impact of that in our body. Okay, so I'm on the phone with my wife, and I say, Legend, you want pizza? He said, no, it's got cheese. Cheese causes mucus. He now, at 4 years old, is clear on the impact of certain foods from being taught. So now if he's out in the world at 5 and the teacher says, Legend, do you want pizza? Do you want an apple? Or do you want this? What do you think my son's going to choose?
I don't think what he did was conscious, but I don't think there was a what I call wisdom. I don't think it was any wisdom was in there, because he don't have enough years to intellectually put together. I think it was more.
I disagree. I think this is one of the places we're making a mistake, brother. He is a sovereign being even now. Now, my wife and I, we are tasked with stewarding him and guiding him. But he can make choices, and he understands the ramification of those choices even now.
So it's the food you're eating, what you're watching, and all that stuff that's controlling you, and you don't even know.
That's right. And here's the other thing that you have to understand, that many of us are dealing with. I never got a chance to really dive into the epigenetics of our situation, right? But one of the things that I wanted to share, John, was that many of us are dealing with the sins of our fathers and their fathers and their fathers. And so then if I'm born into a situation that I'm not, I'm talking about Legend, but Legend is blessed, okay? He's blessed. We tell him all the time, you're blessed, little boy, okay? Now, there are other children. There's another child who's 4 years old who right now is waking up, taking care of themselves, goes into mom's room, sees a different man in the bed, and, is told to get out. And that's their reality. And then they go turn on the television and they're watching these things or playing video games, and that's their reality. How can you expect them not to be mentally ill by the time they're 11 years old? How do we expect that child not to carjack us by the time they're 14 years old?
Especially when they watching all that violence entertainment on TV.
Absolutely.
Isn't that horrible, man?
But
How can you get some entertainment out of that?
But this is our reality, and this is why I keep telling us that many of us who have been blessed, operate from a sense of individualism rather than community.
But we all collective. We can't get anywhere without helping them, right?
That's right. And so we have to be trying to figure out, how do we get into those households to save that child and to save that mother. But this is when I talk about intellectual development, when we think we know, like when you think you know, you've already manipulated yourself. There's so much to know. When you think you know, you've already manipulated yourself. Cliff from Connecticut, you got about 60 seconds, brother.
Thank you, brother. We as a black people, man, we are in the world, but we should not be of the world. Today is Sunday. Church folks will attend church, and then right from there, go and celebrate Halloween.
You tell no lies.
When you're talking about spirituality,
you tell no lies.
And you talk about health, it is detrimental in all aspects, but we'll do it. The preachers are not denouncing it. Matter of fact, they're even condoning it because now they have a trunk and treat. So they'll, right after church, you can bring your costumes, and they'll open up their trunk where kids can get candy right after church. Does that make sense at all, my brother? It doesn't. We need to do better as a people. Thank you, brother, for taking my call.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now let me say this. We don't know the intent and we don't know the context of everything that's happening in the church. So I want to say that, because there might be a pastor saying, "Man, I'd much rather them be here do it than somewhere else." And I want to just, we don't always know the full intent and context. And I would hope that a pastor that is doing that then takes the opportunity, if they know, here's the thing, sometimes we don't know, but if they know, to actually train them on what Halloween truly is. But the trick or treat, man, the major reason for that is the trick. And so we got to ask ourselves this morning, this so-called Halloween morning, am I being tricked? Am I being tricked? Trick or treat.